quite often without understanding
Call is now being recorded.
the real meaning of soft power and its relationship with what can be described as hard power and its role in the diplomatic strategy of a country. Now, soft power, as Joseph Nye himself said, it is uh, it is the ability of a country or a society to sort of to to get things done from others without sort of forcing them in any manner whatsoever. It is like you get others to think the way you think and to get others to want what you want, and so that they feel that what they are doing is out of their own volition. And this soft power obviously has existed throughout human existence. Uh, some nation states and some countries have more soft power than others, and combined with hard power of a country, soft power can become a great force multiplier. So I believe Professor Sanjay Srivastava is today going to talk about uh, India in terms of its ability to project soft power, in terms of its music, in terms of yoga, its art, its culture, etc., etc., and how soft power can be used for augmenting our public diplomacy strategy. So, with these few words, I would like to once again welcome Professor Sanjay Srivastav and invite him to share his views with us.
So, once again, my namaskar and greetings from Kashi and Banaras Hindu University to all of you and those who are going to join very soon. There was some, confusion regarding the, I think, link of this meeting. That is why many of my students couldn't join, and I think they're going to join it soon. So my sincere thanks to the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for giving me this opportunity to put forth my views on India's soft power and public diplomacy strategies, especially during Prime Minister Modi. In the beginning, I just want to tell you about the structure of my paper, structure of my presentation, and I will analyze the narrative of the different foreign policy that is associated often to Modi's foreign policy, or the government itself claim, or the supporters of the government itself claim that it is a different foreign policy from the previous regimes. So in what terms it is different? This I would be discussing you. And then I would also tell that why the soft power and public diplomacy have been emphasized by Prime Minister Modi. And then I would also tell that, what are the usages of the foreign soft power and the public diplomacy that has taken place during Modi's regime. And then I will come to India's public diplomacy. The public diplomacy, as usual, is the basic the 101 taxonomy is that we have the informational public diplomacy, we have the relational public diplomacy, and we have the network public diplomacy. So I will be, I would try to tell that how all these, types of public diplomacies have been used, tools have been used by the Indian foreign policy formulators, our diplomats, to project, soft power. As we know that there is a notion of soft power differential. That is, if you change the public diplomacy tool, then you are going to have the different result regarding the effect of the soft power. This is called the soft power differential. So that is how with the soft power, the public diplomacy also, assumes new importance. And especially when, the narratives are created, justified, and rejected online. Okay, so here also the public diplomacy plays a very, very significant role. So let me, start with telling you that how Modi's foreign policy is different from earlier regimes, or as, the supporters of this government claim. I would say many would say, many would, put forth a critique that no, there is no visible change in the foreign policy. But if we analyze it more subtly, we will find that the change, I mean, there is no metamorphosis of foreign policy. Foreign policy hasn't, changed completely, but the change is in the degrees. Okay, that there is some variation and some changes that have taken place, and the foreign policy becomes more effective or more proactive. Okay, for example, we find that Indian foreign policy is more our aims and our objectives or our intentions become more explicit than implicit. They have been always a thing associated with the foreign policy formulation, that it is always better to keep, the outside world a bit, ambiguous about what for your foreign policy is. That the things are so not, clear, that they cannot, anticipate that what kind of dispositions, a country is going to take. But here in the Modi government's foreign policy, it is more explicit rather than implicit, such as we have seen a candid embrace to the United States and participation of the quadrilateral security dialogue alongside Australia, Japan, and the United States. Then we also see that we use all options against our major adversary Pakistan, and we have started punching that is commensurate to India's weight. Okay, for example, recent air strikes to Balakot, and then giving a befitting reply to Chinese aggression in Ladakh. And earlier, our forces remain in Doklam for a very, very long time, and foreign forces on the Chinese soil is something that no one can imagine in today's world, where China is one of the mightiest power. Okay, so that is to say that Indian foreign policy has started using more proactively its options, and the many options which otherwise would not have been used because of their some sort of unpleasant consequences. But this government is proactively using all its options, and it is becoming more proactive, more explicit, and more effective in many ways, and especially dealing with our adversaries. However, there is also a change, and the change is India's negotiation strategy. There was a time in 2003 in the Cancun ministerial of the World Trade Organization, and we, along with China, created the G20 and thwarted US efforts to hatch a sort of a agriculture reform regime, or especially on the agriculture subsidies. But this time, India is taking a more accommodative stand on the climate change, or India is taking more accommodative stand on agriculture subsidies as well. Also, that once you identify yourself as a rising power, or as a rising nation, international nations which may shape the international society or the international life, then it is very necessary that you don't become simply the spoiler of the talks, but you also try to come to become part of the problem solving. It's not simply that you are the spoiler of the talks, or the analysts say that India is a country which couldn't learn to say no. So all these changes that have been visible in India's foreign policy since last couple of years, last 5 to 7 years. And then there is also a change, as I told you, about the Indian foreign policy going commensurate with its rising power status, is that about the normative agenda that Prime Minister himself said in a very early, when he started in 2014 as Prime Minister, he called India, the mother India, to act as a Vishwaguru, the world leader. So that is, and for the welfare of the humanity. So this kind of change, that India is no more a country that will, simply react. Its foreign policy will simply react to the events that is taking place, the development that is happening. Rather, Indian foreign policy will be shaping and driving the international development. And as a responsible leading power, India will not be a balancing power only, but it will be a leading power. So in that way, there is a change that now the normatives have changed, and that we want more to shape the foreign policy, to shape the international events that are international developments that are taking place, as well as we are driving, things. Especially, you have recently seen how our Prime Minister played a dominant role in the Conference of Parties regarding the climate change, and even British Prime Minister had to say, finally accept that there is one person, and that is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Okay, so these changes are quite visible to the people, and the scholars internationally have accepted this. And then another change that is seen is regarding the soft power and the public diplomacy. And the soft power has become, Indian soft power strategies have become more influence exerting. That they are, it's no more that India is just trying to improve its image. Okay, now we are going a step further, and we are exerting our influence, and we are telling the world that Indian model is ideal, and it can be accepted. Okay, so this is what I mean by exerting influence is this, that telling people, making people to feel and realize that yes, India has a model regarding various things, various spheres of international life, and various things that influence the mankind. And yes, international society can go ahead and accept these models. Especially, we have seen that how proactively Indian government has brought yoga into the forefront, to the forefront, and accepting the international community and this United Nations, that yes, by doing yoga we can be good both physically as well as the spirituality. That was also emphasized in the yoga. Likewise, emphasizing on the Ayurveda, emphasizing on the many such things that I will come to the later part of my talk. And then in the soft power strategies and the public diplomacy strategies, the main thing that had come, and actually it was not that everything started do we allow questions to be raised? You're not audible.
Go ahead and complete your lecture.
And then we can yeah, that will be the just a minute. Okay. So I would request everyone that just
we can't hear you.
So just I would request everyone to hold on, and at the end of the lecture, of course, we can discuss on many things. Fine. So that is how changes that have taken place in the realm of Indian foreign policy, and especially soft power and the public diplomacy. I was telling you about the public diplomacy, and that is that Indian public diplomacy have moved up from informational dimension of it, and now it has reached towards the more relational public diplomacy, and a step beyond that, and reaching to the network diplomacy, and in a more effective manner. As far as the soft power strategies are concerned, uh, the rich culture, India has emphasized on its rich culture, civilizational past, that include emphasis on yoga, Ayurveda, Indian philosophy, Sanskrit, Indian history, culture, both the popular culture like the Bollywood and the substantial culture like Indian philosophy, Vedas, such things, and initiatives to connect with the Indian diaspora, and especially the Indian Americans in America or in the other parts of Europe or in the Middle East, so that they can not only help India to build its image, but also to influence the foreign office there, the foreign policy formulators there in their respective host countries, and as well bring the foreign direct investments to India. IT skilled people have already shown their intellectual might in the entire world. Uh, and there is another question, that why this emphasis on India's soft power and the public diplomacy during the Modi's foreign policy. The first thing, that is, I don't need to tell you about what this Joseph Nye said about the soft power, simply because I know that most of you know, and since I've already spoken for nearly 10 to 15 minutes, and I've given only 45 minutes to speak, so I just
45 is the upper limit. It would be better if you could speak in about 35 minutes.
I will try. Okay. So what are the reasons that why India is more emphasizing on the soft power and the public diplomacy? So the one of the important reason is the philosophy, the political ideology in which the present government believe. That was Deen Dayal Upadhyay's integral humanism, which emphasizes on the culture and says that all public policies should be rooted in the culture of the nation. BJP regards him as an ideologue, and his integral humanism has always been regarded by this government, at least academically, that this will be a sort of a guideline guiding this government. Okay, then as a rising power, or India, if it has to become a great nation or the great power, then it needs a civilizational backup. All rising power need to have the civilizational backup, and in this, you have to tell the world that yes, in the yesteryears also, centuries or decades also, we have been the major power, and we have the potential, and in the days to come, we can provide, a sort of a leadership to the international community in solving, its problems. Okay, there have been, many references in the Indian documents recently. You talk about the Nalanda and the Takshila, and say that Indian civilization is rooted back to the Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Such kind of thing, that India is a nation, that Indian civilization has given the lessons of its spirituality, peace, non-violence, and to the world. And it has given blessings such as Veda, Yoga, and Ayurveda to the international society, telling and emphasizing this, that yes, we have been, in the forefront of serving the mankind, serving the humanity, and in future also we are going to do this. Okay. The second thing is, which is a more subtle, but many of the ambassadors have noted this in their writing, that especially in 2012, after the Nirbhaya case, there was much the agencies which rate the tourism destinations in the world, they had criticized India that women are not safe in that country because of the Nirbhaya case. And then Prime Minister Modi, he shifted the path. He brought a shift in the narrative, and by bringing the this Ramayana circuit, tourist circuit, the Buddha tourist circuit, and the Sufi tourist circuit, he said, he told, he emphasized that India is a safe destination for the tourist, and And by shifting focus to yoga, by shifting focus to meditation, spirituality, Veda, and Ayurveda, Modi government reclaimed India's appeal as a spiritual state. Okay, it's not a state which is violence prone, or women are threatened in states. And you would also find that Indian Public Diplomacy Division, then after 2006 it was called the Public Diplomacy Division, and now it's called the XPD Division. They also came out with a very good volume on the Indian women, the major Indian women who have contributed, to the international life. I think that is available online also, and the young, people here can always find time to read that. So that was, something was one of the important reason that India had to, emphasize on the soft power. And the realist would always say that the soft power is of no use, because finally you have to fight the battle with the hard power, the military power, or the economic power. I would just like to recall here that there are battles of ideas also going on in this world, and there are ideas, there are narratives which are accepted, which are rejected, which are justified online. Okay, because if you look at the war on terror, you will find that entire Muslim world took it as a wrong thing, wrong in the sense that it was against Islam, it was against the Muslims. Okay, and it was very difficult for America to counter this narrative, and they had created what they call the DOT, digital outreach team, in their foreign policy. And this digital outreach team used to proactively trace those anti-America narrative, and were answering their queries or answering their allegations, or just putting the rejoinders back. So the realists would say that it is not required, but and the Indian foreign policy make us realize that there are many narratives which have been created against India. So it is very important that we should, work on our soft power resources. We should work on our public diplomacy strategy, and try to, make narrative that is in our favor. You saw during the this recent Ladakh crisis, Prime Minister Modi categorically calling China as an expansionist power, and this narrative was so intense all through the international society, that after this his speech, many of the the leaders of the international society who were troubled by China started calling China as an expansionist power. So this is very important, that how public diplomacy, or how the things are done online, battles are fought online, ideas are justified, and ideas are rejected online. So it is very important that we should continue to emphasize on soft power and public diplomacy. And there is another answer to realize that soft power and public diplomacy are not binary. They are rather, they supplement each other. I will call soft power a multiplier force, that it will multiply our a nation's a nation's hard power. Okay, so this is that is not a binary. Many would say that maybe that in Indian food or Indian cuisine or Bollywood is very popular in Pakistan, but it has not been able to change the perception about India and the Pakistan's foreign policy makers. But the same thing is true about all kinds of powers, all kinds of hard power. Why America failed in Vietnam? Why they had to withdraw from Afghanistan recently, and leaving that state in a very chaotic state? So this is true with all soft power. The power resource doesn't guarantee you the change in the behavior of the others. That is something everyone should, or the critique of the soft power should understand, that if soft power cannot win the battles, the hard power too cannot win many battles. So both the powers have to, support each other. They have to, uh, have to supplement each other, and in that way, and it has become very important these days, because narratives have assumed really a very significant position in the international relations, and how narratives and the counter narratives are traded. That is, and this is often called the battle of the mind and heart, and whosoever win this battle will be the a dominant, factor in the international relations. And that is why you see that both India and China are rising. But you will find that people suspect China's rise, while they take India's rise with a smile. The reason is that the kind of soft power India is having. Indian forces were in Doklam for nearly 70 days. And you will find that international media did not criticize India, rather, they were criticizing China for creating trouble. So, this is the strength of the soft power. Now, there are other, things such as recently India has been amassing a lot of weapons. ISRO is very active. DRDO is very active. We are purchasing fighter planes from France and other countries, and nuclearly also our technology is developing. So this, it's not that it is going without the notice of the others. The others are also following and noticing us. So if India is amassing weapons, what we are going, I mean, it's going to create a threat perceptions in the minds of many countries, and especially our tiny small neighbors. Okay, so it is important that through our soft power initiatives, through our public diplomacy initiatives, we should try to convince our neighbors, convince other countries that India is not an expansionist power, or we are not going to trouble our neighbors or the small countries around us, or we will not be a sort of a trouble for the international society. Rather, we are the responsible state, and our weapons are for the, for our protection in the self defense, and we are not going to attack any country. Now, coming to that, what are the soft power avenues? As we know that India is a democracy, which is an uncheckered democracy, except that you remove 2.5 years during the emergency, the political emergency in 1975 imposed on. And then it's a land of Mahatma Gandhi, who taught us, gave the lessons of ahimsa, non-violence, is called. And our freedom struggle has been non-violent. Then it's a land which taught Ayurveda, yoga. It's a land which has vibrant Bollywood admired across the world. And then we have a very vibrant Indian expatriate community almost every part of the world. So these are the sources, avenues of India's soft power. Recently, a diplomat who just got retired was telling me that now the Indian Prime Minister himself has become source of India's soft power. That he's too much admired, in the sense that yes, he can show the way, or he can just steer things down to a logical conclusion. Yes, someone is writing. Okay. So these things, and now and as we know that how Indian Americans played a very significant role in signing of the India Caucus, especially the lobby group there in the United States, the bipartisan lobby group, which played a very significant role in the signing of the Indo-US Nuclear Accord of 2005. Then recently, the Howdy Modi program in Houston, where the Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh HSS played a very significant role, and that also tells us a sort of the impact of culture on India's foreign policy, and especially soft power and the public diplomacy strategy. Indian food is, another important thing which is admired all through the globe. Then we have, many Bollywood actors there, admired across the globe, and especially among the Indian expatriate community. Now, coming to that, what are the how the government has used these initiatives? So I'm to just rush up because there's one public diplomacy part is already, it's still left untouched. We have seen, I've told you about the yoga, how India lobbied to make the 21st June as the International Yoga Day, and every year since 2015 we have been celebrating, and the international society has been celebrating it, which is a major influence, a major India's cultural onslaught, cultural influence on the international society. Earlier it was there, but more in a form of a commodity. India opposed the commodification of yoga. There is another debate. Then recently we have seen in 2015 Prime Minister Modi's visit to Mongolia, where he emphasized the cultural aspect, and then visit to South Korea, where he emphasized on that the democracy, that the democratic allies should work together. And in 2015, when during his visit to UAE, he went to a mosque, the major mosque there, and had and took a photograph which was very well, circulated, well received by the international community. And he also got a land, sanction from the prince for making a temple, the Hindu temple there. And wherever he goes, he speaks in Hindi. And one more thing that so far it is quite visible, that this government hasn't mixed foreign policy with the religion. It has mixed foreign policy with the culture, but not with religion. And that is the thing which is being admired by the Muslim world. And India gets its support from the Muslim world. And recently, Australian Prime Minister also said that Australia is selling uranium to India's nuclear power reactor, because India is a country which has never attacked any country first, and India is a responsible power. So all these things show that yes, India's soft power. India has been, able to project its soft power in a very nice way, and it has become, a part of Indian foreign policy, a prominent tool of the Indian foreign policy, and that is, that pertains to its rising power status. Now, coming to the Indian, because I think if I keep speaking on this soft power,
you have 5 more minutes, Sanjay ji.
Okay. So there was an earlier time when Indian public the XP division was there. In 2006 they created the Indian public diplomacy division at the MEA, and then in 2014 they merged the XP and the PD division, and then now they call it, the nomenclature is XPD division. That is the primary organization that looks into India's foreign policy, India's public diplomacy. I'm sorry. But there are many organizations such as ICCR, ICWA, then the ITEC program, and can also call Nehru Memorial Museum Library. They also, do India's Indian public diplomacy. Okay. And now, in the initial years, the strategy was the informational public diplomacy, where the messaging, was the main tool. And the target audience were regarded as simply the receiver of the information, and whatever the information is sent to them, they will simply receive it. They will not regarded as the stakeholder. Later, the things changed, and this government also, emphasized on the relational public diplomacy, where the significance was, the emphasis was on the relationship building with the target audience. Okay. So that was, it's not that it was not there earlier also. It was there earlier. ICCR has been working since a very long time. But this government has tried to emphasize it more, that we should have a public diplomacy which is participatory in nature. that we have to make our target audience participate in our programs. And then the sustainability. Suppose you send a message and then its effect may, go off in just few minutes or few hours. But here in the relational public diplomacy, the sustainability is more important, that we are engaging our stakeholders for a very long time. So that is, they become there exists a sustainability in our relationship with the stakeholder. So in the relational public diplomacy, the emphasis is on the relation making as well as the sustainability of the relationship, on which India has considerably worked, especially the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, as well as our ITech programs have been, very, very effective, especially in the as far as the this capacity building in the developing societies. Then the third is, which is emphasized much these days, because many international organizations like the WTO or the other platforms like the COPs, they have become the coalition driven. That they operate on the basis of the several coalition working. Okay. For example, in the WTO, you see the G20 is working, G33 is there, the Quad is there, and many other G77 is there. So it was important on part of India to have a network public diplomacy, and the network public diplomacy is that government provides a platform where the different agencies, different stakeholders, they come and they negotiate, they discuss the issue. There is a creation of narrative, and they try to find out that what is the commonality and how they can have a coherent position on a particular issue. Okay, so this is this is happening for last couple of days, and here the RIS, Research Information System of India, has played a very, very significant role in informing the developing countries and bringing them to a platform where they can have a sort of a unified stand on different issues related to trade, related to environment, or related to anything that affects the international society. Okay, so with these words, I think I've spoken for nearly 40 minutes. That was required, and if there are questions, I will be more happy to answer it.
Thank you very much, Professor Srivastava. We have a question here from one of our fellows, Dr. Amit Kumar.
Yes.
Amit ji, go ahead.
Sir, Chinese growing soft power influence in our neighborhood is cause of concern for us.
Sorry, China?
Yeah. China is growing soft power influence in our neighborhood, in neighboring countries.
Yeah.
How we can compete with China in this area? Do you have any solution? 2 or 3 points you can give us.
Look, as far as China is concerned in our neighborhood, they are coming with certain kind of strategies, and every nation play on its strategy. Every nation works on its strategy. India is also working on its strategy. And if you take the case of Africa, because I will be speaking mostly in the realm of soft power and public diplomacy only. As far as Pakistan is concerned, it will be very difficult for India to influence Pakistan through its public diplomacy or the soft power resources. Okay, there is a very big library in the Indian High Commission there in Islamabad, but no one goes there. They regularly organize many films and many such kind of thing which projects India's image abroad. But there are people, their police, the ISI, they will prevent all the people who can go and attend those things. I had this information from the many people who have worked on the Indian High Commission there. Okay. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, we cannot have any. I mean, they are going to do this, and they have been doing this. Now there are other countries, for example, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. So with them, we have relations, especially with Nepal, we have relations. And as far as soft power is concerned, public diplomacy is concerned, especially with Nepal, we have a very good, cultural relations with them. And we should try to emphasize on those cultural relations. And that could be something where we can, make China somewhat more humbled, because it is something that if you talk to the common Nepalese people, common person there in Nepal, you will find him more attracted towards India than towards China. You leave the elite who would talk about Nepali nationalism or other kind of things, but the common Nepali, especially the Nepali Hindu there, they would definitely want to go with India, and that is the point on which India should work to have more strong cultural relations with.
All right. Thank you, Professor Srivastava. We have another question from one of our fellows, Dr. Varada Shambush. Varada, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thank you for this session. I have two sets of questions. One is for my own interest. You spoke about integral humanism and Deen Dayal Upadhyay. So could you please elaborate your connection of soft power to integral humanism? That's one. And secondly, what role do you see of data and especially artificial intelligence in soft power maneuvering?
Look, Deen Dayal ji says that in his integral humanism, he emphasizes on the culture, okay, and both. Especially his emphasis is on the substantial culture, and he says that all public policies should be rooted into the culture of a nation. Okay, so he gives importance to the culture that is, especially mostly the shared values, shared norms, shared tradition of a society. Okay, so all these things should have, reflection in the country's public policy. Okay, so that is how, how this is also extended to the realm of foreign policy, that foreign policy should also reflect, or should also have the basis of culture and civilization.
But hasn't this always happened, Professor Srivastava, irrespective of periods and irrespective of other things? All countries, when they sort of try to, exercise soft power, they obviously bring in their culture, their civilization. It's very natural. So the point is there any, what she's trying to ask, is there any specific connection that you can see between integral humanism and the projection of soft power on the part of India?
Even when the whole concept of the prototype of soft power which Joseph Nye brings forth was not there, intuitively nations have been using their soft power. Even not in the modern world, even in the ancient world, there was the King Ashoka who sent the religio-cultural expeditions to Southeast Asia. Even the Mughal kings did that. Even our first Prime Minister also intuitively realized the significance of India's culture. But explicitly emphasizing on that. That's what I've said, that there is no metamorphosis in the foreign policy, but the change is in the degrees. That yoga was earlier also there. The people in homes in United States and Europe have been practicing yoga. But the thing is that now you have explicitly saying that yes, that yoga is a way, through which we can attain our betterment, the
All
physical
right.
betterment as well as the spiritual.
We have a couple of
Let's-
questions from our online participants. Let me just read out. I think a couple of questions are there. Just a moment. Can you increase the size a bit? Go down. Um, that's all. Only two. Go to the first question. LV Krishnan is asking, successful soft power projection requires communication to people of other countries in their own languages besides English. Would you agree? Of course, I think we have been doing it. Professor Srivastava has already made that point. We have used
No,
our
but look,
languages.
I would like to update you on certain things. Actually, I didn't get the time to tell you that many of the India's public diplomacy initiatives, such as India Perspective, that is, available in as many as 14 languages. Okay. Then we have this the YouTube and the video documentaries that come out from the XPD division, and that also in many important languages that have been recognized by the that is spoken in the international society. And then also we have the distinguished lecture series program, and that too its transcript is they plan that we can have this in the languages other than English as well. I can't hear you.
Ashish, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, this is Ashish Kotodia from the Department of Political Science, Banaras. Sir, my question is, as you have talked about the public diplomacy, the journey of diplomacy from informational to relational and the network public diplomacy, what would you think about if I would ask you specifically the India soft power diplomacy from the context of Chinese expansionism in the Indo-Pacific region? Would you still believe that India should rely on the soft power diplomacy towards the Chinese expansionist policy, or India should adapt to this to certain extent, the realistic nature of our foreign policy?
No, that is what I told you, that soft power and hard power, they are not binary. They rather supplement each other. The soft power is a force, multiplying force. It supports, in a way strengthen a country's hard power. Okay, and that is how you find more Indian supporters in the international community than in comparison to China. Okay, so this will be the role of soft power in India's foreign policy.
Yes, right.
Xi Jinping is less accepted. There is another issue, what you call in political science, since you are a political sciences student, the legitimacy. That is the legality plus acceptability. That what your foreign policy is, whether it is acceptable to the international society, international audiences or not. Okay. And the soft power helps you to have the legitimacy.
This brings me to a question. It's very right, as you have said, that soft power is more of a force multiplier. By itself, it cannot bring about any important outcomes. And you rightly said that even hard power cannot ensure that you win every battle. And the world is, in fact, replete with examples of great powers who did not succeed in doing sometimes apparently small things with all their hard power. While I agree with this, I think the point that this gentleman and many other people probably have been trying to make obliquely is that the relationship between soft power and hard power probably has to be understood in a more nuanced way by us, in the sense that though soft power is a force multiplier, but this impression has to be avoided that somehow soft power can play a greater role in either the defense of a country or in promoting its interests beyond a certain point. Now, as far as promoting of a country's interests is concerned, there certainly uh, soft power can play a very important role, because many of these interests are not in fundamental clash with the interests of other societies. And there, the role of soft power becomes very important, because it mellows down your adversaries, it mellows down, other countries, and of course, it strengthens your bonds with friends. Whereas the role of hard power becomes more important when it comes to defense of a country, and of course, not only defense but also in case you need to go out on aggression for some reason. So one might, of course, say in a way that while hard power cannot win many battles, there are many battles that hard power loses. The other important thing to remember is that no important battle can be won without adequate hard power. So I'm just supplementing what you said. And then the other point that you made earlier was comparing India and China, and you said that people suspect China's rise but smile at India's rise, and you related it to India's soft power. Well, this may be partly true, no doubt. Uh, but on the other hand, we have to remember that probably people are still smiling at India's rise because India has not risen enough. We have to wait maybe 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when India is where China is today. Would other countries still continue to smile? Of course, there is a difference between Chinese diplomacy and Indian diplomacy. Uh, but this factor is also there, that China has crossed a certain line. And of course, its diplomatic behavior, its foreign policy is so aggressive and abrasive that it's very natural that other countries suspect the rise of China. And India's foreign policy is more nuanced and sophisticated. And we are, of course, not aggressive the way the Chinese are. But perhaps an additional factor is this as well. Would you like to respond?
You know, I would say that it's not that we are not facing a sort of opposition from the international society. You see, in case of the United States of America, there is they have come down heavily on this giving visa to Indians, especially our skilled, lot HB1 visa. So wherever, the other nations, they face the threat, they face the challenge from India, they come, they change their policies accordingly. But everyone realizes this, this thing that yes, India is a liberal democracy, or India is a country which is more responsible and more committed to the cause of international peace. And it's altogether, it's a responsible state who's not going to threaten its small neighbors, or it's not going to create trouble for the international society. And whatever trouble we have created or we have tried to create, that was in the international negotiations, be it the WTO, or be it the environmental negotiations, or be it the UNCTAD negotiations. So that too, very, very democratically. The country which hasn't violated the international law ever, which hasn't, violated the spirit of the United Nations Charter. Even we accepted the ceasefire resolution of the Security Council, when we could have taken back our land from Pakistani forces in Kashmir. So all these, things earn soft power for India, and this is the time that we are working on it to have, its advantages to our foreign policy, and especially by creating narratives, by having the more acceptability across the globe, across the world, regarding India's foreign policy or India's international negotiations. And that perhaps opens more avenues for India to grow, evolve, and develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Srivastava. I think with this, we have reached the end of today's session. And I once again thank all participants for their presence here this afternoon and for their very enthusiastic participation. And I especially thank Professor Srivastava for accepting this invitation. Thank you very much.